Now, welcome to the stage, Rebecca Phillips, Morgan McMichael, and Annabella Rockwell.
Hello, YWS!
How's it going, everybody? We're so excited to be here. My name is Taylor Scornavaco. I'm actually on staff here at TurningPoint USA. And if you were to tell me just a few years ago that I would be sitting on this stage, let alone working at TurningPoint USA, I would have told you were crazy. Just in 2020, I was a junior at Stanford University, a very far left college in Northern California, and I was the captain of my Division I lacrosse team. I was a conservative, and I was majoring in human biology. No, you don't need a biology degree to know what a woman is. I can vouch for that. But after the aftermath of 2020, the BLM riots, the COVID craziness, my whole life was upended. I went from being someone who was beloved to completely canceled. I was removed from my captainship position. I was threatened with forced vaccinations. And again, my whole life changed because simply I was a conservative. And unfortunately, that's far too common in today's society. With me today, I have 3 other brave conservative females who have undergone very similar stories. And we're really excited to be here with you today and kind of walk through everything that they've gone through. I have Morgan here. She is a former TPUSA student, now turned contributor, who's faced so many of what all of you in the audience have faced in your lives. Rebecca Phillips. She's only 17 years old, if you can believe it. And she made the national news for speaking out against a transgender man in the bathroom at the YMCA. Yeah, I know. Give it up for Rebecca. And then last but not least, Annabella Rockwell, who brings a very interesting perspective to this panel as she was a former leftist, former staffer for the Hillary Clinton campaign, and now, I know, she is an outspoken conservative and freedom fighter. Awesome. Well, thank you guys all again so much for being here. I want to start with you, Rebecca. You're 17 years old. You're at the YMCA. There's got to be hundreds of people, parents, mothers, fathers, that are seeing this transgender man, this deranged man, walking into the women's locker room. Yet you, a 17-year-old kid, is the one to speak up and say something. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so that was actually the YMCA that I had grown up going to. That's where I got swim lessons when I was like 4 and 5. That's where I like to bring my sister during the summer for her own swim lessons. And so while I was in the locker room, I can hear this male voice. I see his backside. And I'm just thinking, there's like 3 parties in this locker room right now. There are people that are scared. They're not going to do anything about it. There are people that have been desensitized, so they're fine with it. And then there's people that would be bold enough to speak up. And it shouldn't have to be the mothers with little children and all of the other people that were talking with this man, biological women, who I think should all have a problem with that. I knew they weren't going to do anything. And so at that point, it wasn't like, oh, if I do this, I had no idea that it was going to go viral. I didn't know that that was going to result in me getting to speak on this stage. I just was like, should I talk to the 2 teenagers at the front desk? They're not that intimidating. So that was like just the first step. And thanks to the power of the internet, that video or the speech that I gave kind of went viral, and it's led to this today. But I was given advice by a friend's dad in high school, and he said, if you don't have the courage to speak up about the little things, what makes you think that you're going to have the courage to speak up about the big things? And I've always, right. Thank you. I've always been the friend that, well, a lot of people don't want to be my friend because I'm too blunt, and I will tell people, hey, we shouldn't be talking about that. That's rude. You sound like an idiot. Yeah. So I'm not like always the kindest person, and I've lost friends because of that, but I have always been the person to lose friends over speaking up about the little things. So I asked myself in the locker room, if this has been my life so far, what's stopping me now from speaking up against something that is like morally reprehensible? So that was my thought process, if that answers your question.
Yeah, and you're incredibly brave for doing that, first of all. And I think for everyone in the audience right now, that should serve as inspiration to you. The little things matter. Speaking up about the little things can make such a big difference. I mean, look at Rebecca right now. If she hadn't have said something, then this would not have happened. She would not be here speaking with you. And so the little things matter. But I want to transition to you now, Morgann. Morgann, most of you guys know this, is a TPUSA contributor. We're so lucky to have her. But just a few years ago, she was in those seats where you guys are sitting. She was a YWLS attendee, and she had her life changed at a Turning Point USA conference. Can you talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, it's nice to meet all of you guys. You are so beautiful. I love you all. 2 years ago today was the day that my life changed forever. I sat somewhere in this exact room, and I remember listening to the speakers, and I was just a lost college student. I was canceled by my sorority, got threatened to be kicked out of my sorority as vice president of the recruitment team at the time. I was a college student studying mechanical engineering, and COVID had just happened. I felt like I had no friends, so I came to TPUSA's YWLS in search of hope, in search of something that would give me a purpose to live for something greater than myself other than God, because I always have God with me at all times. But I needed something that I could go to and have community and have some people that shared like-mindedness as me, because the girls in my sorority were not it. The guys that I met in college were not it. I promise you. It was nothing but an unfulfilling life. So I came to YWLS 2 years ago. My mom actually was like, you and your sister should go to this event. I showed up. And I showed out. On the second day, I ended up sitting in my hotel room and started writing scripts to a show that I eventually came out with a year later. And I came to YWLS searching for that, and I found it. And I ended up printing out my resume and handed it to anybody who I thought would get me a job somewhere. And last year at YWLS, so 1 year ago today, I applied to be a contributor for Turning Point USA. And now this is actually my first time ever speaking to an audience this large, and I love that it's at this event because it's my favorite event.
Give it up for Morgann.
So, if there's one thing that I could tell you about being canceled, because I know a lot of you in this room are probably facing a lot of adversity, whether it's in your high schools, which I faced that growing up in California, whether it's your colleges. I went to college in Texas, and it was still hard with the left being there. But know that if it was not for cancel culture, I would not be here for today. If it was not for cancel culture and people ridiculing me my entire life for the values that I held, I would not be here today. So know that every single one of you, your voice matters. And if it isn't for you sitting in this room right now and thinking, these are right here, these are your future girlfriends, these might be your future bridesmaids, but this is your future, you're Gen Z, and you have the power in your hand to make a change. And so it's up to you, and it's your responsibility to not let the left's cancel culture completely dismantle your life, but instead use that and uplift you to continue moving on and pressing forward and make a change in your life.
That's awesome. So we've all faced cancel culture. You've all faced cancel culture. And now I want to turn the conversation over to Annabella, who, unlike many of you, have actually been on the left. You grew up normal. You went to college. I know, because leftists aren't normal. You went to college, and you were completely indoctrinated. You became a leftist, you worked for the Hillary Clinton campaign, but you woke up. And a lot of what we fight for at Turning Point USA, a lot of what you are fighting for in your communities and with your friends, is to wake up those people you love so dearly, but just can't see clearly because of what the left and the mainstream media and everyone is telling them to believe. But you did it. And so I want to hear from you a little bit more about your story and how you woke up, and some hope for the audience and how they can kind of help their friends and family see the truth and see the light.
I just want to first say thank you so much. This is really incredible to be here speaking in front of all of you. And I did grow up normal, which would now be considered very conservative, maybe even far right in today's culture. I was an athlete. I'm an only child, so I'm super close with my family, and I grew up going to church. I went to Mount Holyoke College in Western Massachusetts. That's the oldest women's college in the country. I'd always gone to girls' schools. And when I got there, I was excited. I had an open mind. My principles were that love everyone. I'd grown up going to church. And as soon as I got there, I was indoctrinated by my professors and my peers that gender and sexuality are both a spectrum. So, what is a woman? It's relative to whatever you feel at the women's college, keep in mind. I was told that I had been oppressed by a racist, patriarchal system that was invisible to me. I didn't know that I'd been oppressed my whole life, but I'd been fighting against this machine. And lastly, I was told God isn't real. Trust the science. And that I had to be I was completely changed. I thought that I was going to a liberal arts college and that I was going to learn so many things. And instead what happened is I was forced into submission until I finally started believing all of these things and believing all these lies. And I graduated with very crippling anxiety. I had a very bad relationship with my family. I was an atheist. I was a bra-burning feminist. I went into progressive politics because I thought that, that had to be my duty, was to dismantle the patriarchy. And then, finally in 2020, I had reconnected with my family. I got sober and I found God again. Thank you. Thank you. In God's grace, the veil was lifted. I finally was able to look at the hypocrisies of progressive policies and realize this doesn't actually help people. Burning down businesses isn't helping people. Telling women who sit at a desk that they'll pay, your company will pay for your abortion just so you can be back at work on a Monday, that's not helping women, that's hurting us. And so now I'm committed to speaking out about what I went through because it actually is real. Students are being indoctrinated, and you have to be so careful about what classes you're taking because Marxism is in every single subject. I studied history and politics, and it completely changed me, and I had to be broken, but I've been saved again. So here I am.
Give it up for Annabella. That's an incredible story. And unfortunately, not enough stories like yours are being told. Not enough stories like ours are being told. And everyone in the audience, you all have dealt with cancel culture in one way, shape, or form. And it would be remiss of us for sit up here and tell you that it wasn't difficult and that working through the adversity of friends canceling you, being kicked out of teams for me, being kicked out of your sorority for you, being harassed at the workplace, it's not easy, but at the same time, it's worth it. Charlie was up here on the first day and he told you, it's not going to be easy. Your life is going to get harder, but your life is going to get better. Can you touch, Morgan, first a little bit about how your life has changed since becoming an outspoken conservative and really using your platform online to spread the conservative values and message?
Absolutely. I would be lying if I said I didn't get hate every single day, as I'm sure many of you do. But my life has definitely changed for the better. Charlie couldn't have said it better himself, because your life does get better. You may lose your friends who you thought were your friends, but here's the thing, is are they really your friend if they are not willing to stick up for you and stick beside you and by your values? No, they're not your friend. They are not your friend, and they're lying to you. So, was it hard? Absolutely. The last 2 years of my life, I lost people who I thought were going to be my bridesmaids. I lost girls in my life who I thought were going to be my everything one day and, stick by my side through it all. But instead, I ended up finding girls who actually believe in what I believe in, who are Christian women, who are conservative women, who uplift me every single day, who are by my side no matter what. And those are the girls that you want in your life. Those are the girls that you want by your side forever, and that is how my life has gotten better. And no, it's not easy when you open your phone and there's comments talking bad about you. It's not easy when you're trending on Twitter for saying that Chick-fil-A is no longer the Lord's chicken, it's the woke chicken. I don't know if you saw that tweet. It's not easy, but guess what? Your life does get better, and you may be singled out on your college or high school campus. You may be looked at differently because of being a Christian or a conservative, but guess what? There needs to be at least one of us on every single college and high school campus, because if it's not us, then who is it?
Amen. Amen. Now, Rebecca, you faced some interesting backlash because you went from, first of all, this should be hope for you. You don't need a large platform to make a difference. Rebecca, how many followers did you have on Instagram before you started this? Do you even use social media?
So this whole thing blew up in January, and I got Instagram 2 months ago, so I had no social media. I would recommend, by the way. It's pretty great. Yeah, you don't need any platform. It all happened so fast. I gave a speech at a city council meeting, and the next morning my mom woke me up and she was like, so someone I haven't talked to in years is reaching out to me. Somehow they saw your video. The internet is crazy. It will do wonderful things and terrible things. And it really was, I kind of had a different experience in terms of being canceled. There definitely were a lot of, like, I was getting phone calls at work. I worked at a restaurant at the time, threatening my life. My coworkers were having to put up with a lot of hate from customers. But in terms of support versus, like, dissent, for every one person that was giving me a hateful comment, there was 10 people in support of me. And, I mean, this room kind of speaks to it that, yeah, we are underestimating the amount of people that believe what we think. And so when I went back to my workplace, pretty much all my coworkers, all the waitresses, they're liberal, they're on that hormonal birth control, but none of them want to share a locker room with a man. My boss voted for Biden, but he still disagrees with the transgender agenda. And so you don't just approach these issues with, like, I'm going to lose my job, because you might, and you should be prepared for that. But you would be surprised how many people, even on the left side of the aisle, do agree or know deep down that this is wrong, and they might just stand with you. And so the potential of being canceled, we should make it cool again, because you don't know who's going to support you and be with you through that walk as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You find out who your real friends are. Like Morgan, you said, there's going to be so many people who stand up and they fight right alongside you. Sometimes you just need to be the one to go first, and you will find so many people who feel empowered by your confidence and your bravery. You just need to be the one to take that first step. Now, Annabella, obviously, being a leftist before, you've seen the way that the left treats strong conservative women like we have in the audience right now. Why are they so threatened by what we're doing, and why are they so intent on canceling our voices?
I think deep down they must know that they're wrong. I do want to encourage everyone, the power of social media, why it's so important is because in 2020, when I was going through my awakening, if you will, it was also in the midst of lockdown. So my whole feed, because I had worked in liberal politics, it was black squares, it was people saying, right as your First Amendment burning down. And in that, there were actually conservative influencers that popped up. I mean, talk about a God moment. And so I was able to start seeking out the truth. And there were young women speaking up, women like Morgan, who made it cool to be conservative. Because it is, right? You know, speaking out for what you believe. And as far as me being canceled, my former classmates had a fundraiser for my college in my honor, you know, in honor of my lost humanity, right? They're so upset that I've started speaking my truth again. So ultimately, like, they weren't my friends. They wanted me to change, and I did change to fit in with them. And I'm humble enough to admit that happened, that I was young and I was impressionable. It's a little embarrassing to say I couldn't stand up for my values, but, you know, bullies are really good at making you change what you believe in. And, you know, I think sometimes the intentions can be good, but, you know, as people say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And just because your intentions are good to transition your child doesn't mean it's the truth. So, yeah.
Preach, that's right. Now, we've talked a lot this weekend about the importance of starting a Turning Point USA chapter on your high school or college campus. And Morgan, you were a chapter leader. You had the community, the Turning Point USA community, behind you when you were going through this entire thing. Can you talk about the importance of being a part of this group of people? That we have 2,500 plus young women in this room right now, and we've got 600,000 plus student activists all across the nation. How does that help you as you're going through this difficult time and you're facing cancel culture?
Every single day, it's really easy to feel isolated. It's really easy to feel alone. We feel anxious. We can feel depressed about certain things, upset about things. But who are you supposed to go to? Well, first of all, you go to God. You pray about it. But then you go to your friends. That's who you go to after God. Or you go to your parents. I know I go to my mom. But if I didn't have my faith, I'd have nothing. And next after that, I needed a Turning Point chapter to help support me for those values. So in college, I did join a chapter, and I was a vice president of my chapter, so all of you should start a chapter, because you could be the reason that every single other conservative student on campus has a reason to speak out. And sometimes it just takes one person initiating a conversation on what they believe, why they believe that, asking questions to someone, really getting to the core of who somebody is. And it's really in your hands and up to you to continue to spread the conservative message on your college campus. Because like I said, if it's not you, who is it going to be? And that is honestly the most important thing that we need to be doing as student activists. And know that every single one of you has an influence. Your immediate circle is your sphere of influence. Who you surround yourself with, I believe, is who you will become, because they completely influence you every single day. And so when you go out to your friends, surround yourself with good people of like-mindedness and continue to speak out and continue to expand that sphere of people on your college and high school campuses, because you never know, there could be someone else sitting right next to you who feels so scared, so alone, and so silent, fearing cancel culture, or who has been canceled, and all it takes is you asking them a question.
I love that. It's what we fight for at Turning Point USA. It's what we preach. And, I mean, everyone here is a living example of that. And especially you, Rebecca, as a 17-year-old kid, you are exactly what these young girls can hopefully look to and be right now. Not one day, but right now. I'm curious, though, what do you have planned for the future? I mean, obviously, you stood up and you spoke out when you saw something was wrong in the moment, but how has this kind of changed your perspective on your purpose in life and kind of what God has called you to do?
Yeah, so I will be going to college next year outside of D.C. I'm going to be studying national security. And while that's like, you don't want to be like, a super famous person and work for the CIA. That doesn't really go hand in hand. So when everything blew up with the YMCA, getting to go on Tucker Carlson, all these wonderful opportunities, I was thinking, shoot, there goes my low profile. My story was in Russian tabloids. So it was a weird experience, but I have grown up in a Christian home. I've done speech and debate. And the Lord really prepared me for that moment in the YMCA. There's a reason that I'm a woman. There's a reason that I was 17. There's a reason that I did debate and I was prepared to public speak and, challenge the logic of their stupid policy. And so I guess what happened at the YMCA was kind of the event that I needed to realize that all of us have a purpose. All of us were designed and have skills that will be used and utilized by God, whether it's when you're 16, 17, 18, or 40, or later. We have all ages in this audience, but I'm hoping I'll use those debate skills in college. I'm going to be competing there. But hopefully just fighting for truth on the national level, because there is an objective truth, and it doesn't matter what anyone tells you, there is an objective truth, and you need to pursue that. And that truth is obviously found in the gospel. But yeah, that's my plan.
That's amazing. And Annabella, you said a big part of your story, a big part of waking up was finding God. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how that all materialized? Because I know the left is incredibly worried about this awakening that's happening all across the country. I mean, Turning Point USA is kind of spearheading this with Turning Point USA or TPUSA Faith. Can you talk about that?
I would love to, and TPUSA gives me so much hope. I have a college degree. I also have a master's. I got my MBA, so I'm, so educated, but was too smart to believe in God. That was kind of what I thought, is that, anyone that believes in a higher power is weak. That's what I thought, and that's so sad, because now I realize the exact opposite is if you have faith, that is your greatest strength. And thank you. I said I did get sober. Sobriety is a big part of my story because I had stopped taking anxiety medicines. I stopped drinking. I actually had deleted social media for a period of time just to really clear my mind and have a clear head. I joke that I was a liberal when I was drinking, so I wasn't thinking clearly. But in that clear head is when I just started to try to reconnect with a higher power. It was very simple at first. It was, okay, maybe the energy I put out is what I get back. And then finally I was able to see with so many moments that God had actually been there the whole time, guiding me, keeping me safe, using me, and bringing me to people that had God in their hearts. So I was able to search for that. And now I'm committed to spreading that and helping women find God and find their purpose, and also know that we are perfect in God's eyes and as women, and that we are women and we should own that and be feminine, but we can still accomplish things and have families. We're not limited to picking one thing or the other. It's all about, you know, I guess timing everything and letting God lead us.
Yeah, I think give her a round of applause for that. I think it's really cool that you can see the influence that finding Jesus and really following the plan that God has for our lives and how it shaped the way that we've dealt with cancel culture. I mean, me personally, too, I actually was blessed to have the pastor who changed my life here at this event this weekend. He's actually now back in San Diego preaching. My mom's at the service, but I met Charlie Kirk. I found out who Charlie Kirk was at his church. It changed the trajectory of my entire life. And it's because I was able to surrender and really dive deep into what my purpose was, what I was called to do. And it's been a blessing ever since. But I want to just hear closing thoughts from you guys. Give the audience some hope for the future. They're all going through something right now. Charlie mentioned it. Whether or not you're going through something that is absolutely debilitating or in your mind small, it's important, and we're here to support you.
Do not ever let the left's diabolical craziness ever control your life. Do not bend your knee to them, and continue to stand up for absolute truth, which is the truth, which is God's truth, and never give up or stop fighting.
Amen.
I would just say, don't structure your life, your day, your actions, how you dress, what you look like around pleasing others. There's one person in your life whose opinion you should care about, and that's obviously our Heavenly Father. And also, I mean, something that stuck with me with my issue was people reaching out to my father, like his coworkers, men. They were saying, we are so ashamed that it's your daughter that is the one that's getting all the backlash. Like this, the men should be doing this. We are so ashamed that it has to be this 17-year-old girl. So don't underestimate the gifts or the unique characteristics that you have been given, because God will use that for good and for change.
Last but not least,
when in doubt, say the Serenity Prayer. That's my advice. When you're having a moment, just take a few seconds and say it to yourself and trust that it's all going to work out.
Well, God bless you all. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us. Never, never give up. Always keep fighting, okay?